So I always went into work with this home life love taught to me. And, I get into General Motors, and as far as culture and as far as love, it could not have been the more opposite extreme from what my mother taught me and what my dad tried to teach me about loving other people. And
Yeah.
so there was always this huge disconnect in my soul. I would call it, Walt, I had this angst in my soul, and it lasted for years because the old GM, and I'm not saying GM's like this anymore, but in those days, it was very fear based. You picture these guys, and they're sometimes drinking scotch, smoking cigars in the middle of meetings, swearing at people, accusing them of being worthless. And if you don't hit your numbers, you're gone. And it was just very intimidating, fear based culture, which, by the way, doesn't get the best out of people. People aren't creative. They're not innovative. They don't take risks. It was just a train wreck from a culture standpoint. I rose up in the midst of it, and I hit my numbers and I did really well, as you've already mentioned. But during that whole time, I would say I just had an emptiness in my soul that I am disconnecting who I am when I go into work. I tried not to play their games. I tried to treat people like I felt they should be treated. But when no one around you is doing it, and certainly it's not the culture at the top, you still feel a disconnect and you feel this angst. And so I would say my disenchantment was that disconnection. I'd go home, I'd go to church, I'd be with my family. I felt like I could be one way. I'd go into work and I felt like I had to turn that off. And that really wears on a human being. I bet you if you polled your listeners, because I do this every time I give a keynote, I ask everybody in the audience, how many of you have worked in an environment like I just described? And it's always over 50%, sometimes 80 or 90%.